Warning: the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will also be spoilers for this anime as well as various anime throughout the course of this episode, so please use caution in case we discuss a series that you haven't finished yet. And finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show. Hello, one and all! Welcome to a very special Dub Talk where on a normal night a group of people get together and watch anime. However, tonight a couple of foodies are getting together and discuss the latest and greatest in good eating. Yes, that's right. If you're watching this, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy your special shopping holidays. It's the day of fry, if you will. And tonight I have with me, yes, the day of fry, hosted by a black guy. And tonight I have with me my fellow foodie here, Noah Clue.
Look, I know I agreed to be part of Transported to Another World, but I really need to get home. Can you please show me how to get back home? I don't have the key to get through the door. I'm trapped here. I've got bills to pay. Please, somebody, let me out of the door!
Don't worry, my friend. Next door available will be here in 7 days.
It's 7 days! 7 days! 7 days! Nobody has time to wait for 7 days! Alright, fine. Okay, I guess everyone, we're going to be recording for 7 days straight, so hunker down. This is going to be the longest episode we've ever done.
Of course.
I don't think YouTube or any hosting platform would even let you have an episode that is, was that 24 times 7...
168 hours?
168 hours! Have you ever seen anyone try to upload something that long?
You joke. I've seen the Achievement Hunter. They uploaded an episode. They did a live stream, a 37.5-hour live stream playing Uno Infinite.
Holy shit. Okay, so maybe there are exceptions. Let's try to go a little shorter than that, if it's possible.
Yeah, because it's just the two of us. I mean, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I.
If we try, just the two of us. Well, I'm glad to be here. So thank you for inviting the other one of the foodies of the podcast. I know a couple other people on Dub Talk are big into cooking and eating. We have an entire foodie chat in our Discord. But it's been something that I know you and I are both very much into. And you're... this is a good particular show to cover for foodies in particular. What is that show?
Yes, tonight we will be covering the show Restaurant to Another World. And judging by the title, yes, it is an isekai, but not just any isekai.
No!
What it is what it is it's an isekai, it's a reverse isekai, it's also yashike, which is a healing anime, basically, you know, chicken soup for the soul, that kind of thing.
Chicken curry for the soul. Ah?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, as contrast to a lot of popular isekai nowadays, like Konosuba, Goblin Slayer, Shield Hero, a lot of those ones that have questionable reputations. This is a show that is about not fighting demons exactly, it's about eating and culinary cuisine and sharing a meal with friends in a nice little diner. So I joke a little bit about isekai, like no, this is a nicer entry into that genre, thankfully.
Yes, it is very wholesome on the surface, but there are some deep connections to it. Just so you know, it's funny because when I watch this, it's one of those shows where it doesn't seem like a central plot except for the food, but when you start getting into it, just like food, there's like a deeper connection to everything, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that this is a show that, it says Restaurant to Another World, and the other world happens to be our world, but the characters who come in to eat are they're from like a medieval setting. Like, this could have been anywhere, but no, the original author decided that this is going to be medieval characters, sword and sorcery and wizards, elves and vampire setting, coming to a restaurant that serves food from our dimension. So that gives it, a bit of a familiar setting. Like, these are tropes you've heard of before. You've just never seen them all sit down to enjoy. Let's see, what kind of meals do we enjoy? Curry rice, fried seafood, crepes, and pork soup around a table.
Yeah, basically. Man, oh man, I'm not gonna lie, I could sit here all night and talk about food, but
Oh, okay.
but I spent the last 3 days serving up customers, and right now I just want to relax and chill with a comfort food anime.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, so speaking of serving up dishes, we should. Oh, I should. Oh, silly me, I forgot to read the synopsis of this show.
Oh,
I
yeah,
also,
go ahead.
I also forgot to write one down.
I'm not. I don't think there are any websites that have show synopsize anywhere. You're just gonna have to make up one on top of your head. It's not like you can go to a network of news for anime that can have one pulled up for you.
You joke, but I'm going to Anime Planet. There's a certain restaurant in the first basement level of a multi-tenant building in one corner of a shopping street near the office district. Hold on, let me take a swig of water. This historical 70-year-old restaurant, marked by the sign with a picture of a cat, is called Western Restaurant Nicoya. This restaurant looks completely normal through the week, but on Saturdays it opens in secret exclusively to some very unique guests. During these hours, doors in various areas of a parallel world open to allow customers of many different races and cultures into the restaurant. So
And
yes, we've
he ain't kidding, people. That is the entire plot right there.
and that's the show.
Yeah, it is. There is a bit of backstory going on with the medieval setting. Like, there's some kingdoms that are trying to become peaceful with each other. There are some characters who are like advancing in their development. Like, some of that's going on in the background, but they're all tied together by everyone getting together in this restaurant from our world.
Yes, and from one dimension to the other, let's get right into things, shall we?
Yes.
First, we're going to be talking about the staff behind the scenes of this restaurant show, our ADR directors and scriptwriters. Now, interesting thing to note, this we're covering both seasons of the show, all 24 episodes. The first season was done in 2017, produced by a studio called Silverlink, and it was dubbed by then known as Funimation. Well, they were still known as Funimation the whole time throughout this dub. And this dub was directed by Alexis Tipton, with Jamie Markey writing scripts. Alexis Tipton, you've seen her direct other shows such as A Couple of Cuckoos, The Dragon Goes House Hunting, Sunny Boy, and World End. And Jamie Markey's also written scripts for You Got HK, Baka and Test, Brothers Conflict, Snow White with the Red Hair, and Spice and Wolf.
I'm glad you mentioned Spice and Wolf. I'm sorry. I'm going to mention Spice and Wolf a couple of times in the discussion. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's another medieval setting story that revolves heavily around people trying to get food. So it's very fitting that Jamie was tied into this particular show as well.
Yes. And season 2 of this dub actually came out last November, actually.
Yes, it did. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You mean the dub or the original series? The Japanese.
Yes. The show itself kind of switched productions from Silverlink to OLM. That's the people behind both Pokemon and the mixed anime. And probably Cross Game too, but I'm not familiar with that. The dub was also handled by Funimation before their untimely passing.
Are they really past? I mean, it just got eaten by the Crunchyroll machine. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm sorry. It's very hard to take a company that's been around for a very long time who didn't go out of business like ADV or Bandai or any of those ones. No, it just got swallowed up into the machine of a bigger studio. So it feels weird to say that Funimation doesn't exist anymore, even though you're technically right.
Yeah. And, but still, what's still standing is that the dub is mostly a Texas dub with direction from Caitlin Glass, who was assisted by Emmy Lowe. And this time around, script writer is Jessica Slice. That is Jessica Slice. It rhymes with guys. I'll I'll trip that part up.
No, thank
Anyway,
you for telling me that, because I saw the spelling, I'm like, it's slews, right? But no, you corrected me, and it's like, no, it's slice, like guys. So thank you for correcting me, and anyone else listening who may not know how that's pronounced.
yeah, just remember Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Think of it that way.
We get some burgers in this episode.
Yeah, we do. Caitlin Glass, you've seen her direct other shows such as Fruits Basket 2019, Horimiya, Maria the Virgin Witch, and Show by Rock. Her sister is Emmy Lowe. You've seen them direct other shows such as Gekidol, Ranking the Kings, Shadow's House, Sing Yesterday for Me, Tacked Up Destiny, to name a few. Basically, most of the assistant roles has been working under Caitlin.
Interesting. So it would be fair to call Emmy a sous chef under Caitlin Glass, basically.
Yes, basically. And Jessica Slice is written for other stuff such as After School Dice Club, Chainsaw Man, which was just recently airing, Horimiya, Kaguya-sama, Love is War, my favorite script of all time.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it is a trip, man. And Sabikui Bisco, aka the show about mushrooms and rust.
I haven't seen that one. In fact,
I have.
Yeah,
I've only seen one episode of Sabikui Bisco, but it is pretty weird. It's enjoyable, but it's pretty weird.
Is that currently airing?
It aired already earlier this year. I remember that.
Okay, I was wondering if it was in that mix of things that are coming out this year, this season that I missed out on. Because for those listening, we're recording this in the middle of the fall season, which is jam-packed with way too many things that nobody can keep up with. So there's probably some good stuff that's just getting overlooked because it's being, surpassed by Mob Psycho 3 and the second season of Spy Family and Chainsaw Man and Bocchi the Rockstar and every other thing that's at the top of the list right now.
Yeah, basically. It must be jam-packed because jellies don't shake like that.
There was another episode in here that was all about jelly. Which one was that episode? That was, what was that called? It was,
Princess Jellyfish.
No, the episode in here, Fruit Jelly.
Fruit Jelly. Sorry, I thought you meant one other show.
Contrary to popular belief, jellyfish don't actually move like the product of jelly. In fact, they're very lace material. And we're not doing that episode again. That was a completely different topic.
Yeah, basically. So, what are thoughts on this on the ADR staff?
Well, so spaced out over a couple of years in putting the whole dub together, the first thing I want to point out is that there's barely any noticeable change between seasons 1 and season 2. I was watching the whole show back to back, not when it came out. So I was looking to see if there's any noticeable change, and I couldn't really hear one. The direction, the performances, the writing, most of that sounded very uniform between the two seasons. The only thing that sounded possibly different was that it felt like the mixing was a little louder in season 2. I'm not sure if that was just in the first season and I just got used to it after that, but there just seemed to be a bit of a spike in audio. But the big thing to notice is that the Alexis and Caitlin's direction for this ensemble cast, because there's a lot of characters in this show, a lot of different people come to the restaurant, is very uniform between them. They get that the appeal of the show is multiple characters bouncing off each other and expressing their delight at these different dishes, explaining the texture, the flavor, the appeal. And so that's commendable. With there being a 4-year gap between the two productions, there's nary a sound difference between the two, at least to my ears. Did you feel there was any difference between the two seasons?
No, I thought everything was consistent from start to finish, even though it's only 4 years apart. I would admit, however, there was one thing that really stood out to me, but I think that was more on a season one with Alexis and Jamie, because, okay, there's no one specific narrator, but I did think the one part of Jamie Maki's writing I really enjoyed was when she did that narration in episode 4 about
With
the
the omelet.
lizard, with the
Yeah,
omelet, the lizard man.
that was an
I,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was partly because Alexis casted her, so that way she know what words to put in her mouth, basically.
It was definitely a carryover from the original Japanese because that's the only episode where there is a narrator explaining the material almost documentary style. Because as we find out, the lizard people don't speak very good English. They like have broken English. So we needed apparently some narrator, some nebulous voice. We needed Jamie to tell us this is how they express themselves. This is how they slap their tails to express their delight. And this is how they decide who's going to be the lucky one to go through the door to get the omelet rice for the whole tribe.
Oh yeah, speaking of lizard men and mixing, I had him on the list, but I kind of took him off last minute. Tyson Reinhardt's Gagampo. Now,
Is that who that was?
that
Okay.
that was the lizard man that was ordering the omelets. Now,
Okay.
when you see him in the village, he's speaking normally, but when he's going to the restaurant, he speaks with kind of this like a husky kind of deep voice, kind of very gravelly. It's almost like what if the God of Death had? I can't say what if the God of Death has a voice. The God of Death's also in this show, but we'll get to her next. Uh, it's just very. I just like how he switched between the two voices. I was like, wait, is that even the same person? But yeah, the mixer didn't feel off. The mixer was actually quite nice. The writing, there wasn't really much to stand out on, other than at least they didn't like take too much of a regal approach with these characters.
Oh, you mean
Uh,
like the regal noble characters, the ones who are like princesses or royalty characters?
yeah, basically. Because it has to be not only comprehensible, but you also want to like be able to like help project their thoughts and feelings on not only all these dishes, but their daily lives as well. And it wouldn't kind of make sense if they just spoke like with an air of regalia.
Well, there's different classes of characters too. There's
There are,
dwarf characters. There's fighter characters. There's mercenary character. So yeah, it wouldn't make sense for all of them to have the same level of like a faux British accent to portray the like medieval setting. Um,
basically now back to Shakespearean. You don't just speak normally, but you speak with a informal kind of tone.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a very vernacular way of speaking. No, yeah, you're right. Nobody speaks in a like refined dialect, no matter their class, because this is supposed to be a diner that suits like the average person. If you compare Restaurant to Another World to a show like Food Wars, which we covered years ago for Thanksgiving, those were dishes that were very complex to make, and a lot of them were made with ingredients that the average person wouldn't normally try. Whereas this is a show where all the meals are very basic diner foods, prepared very well, but not very complex. So I feel like it does enhance the level of everyman-ness that the show is going for by having the characters speak in a basic vernacular pattern. Like you were saying, not Shakespearean, more basic sounding.
Yeah, basically. But other than that, everything was pretty solid. I know with direction, Caitlin and Emily would do a pretty great job. Caitlin's one of the best in the biz. Alexis Tipton, I know this was the season one was like 4 years ago, but this was when she was starting to get into directing. So it was, I
Really?
even yeah, because I know some of her earlier stuff like Masamune Kun's Revenge, which that was kind of controversial among us sometimes. She did a pretty good job on that dub. It's just the show as a whole was not something we really want to watch. But I knew as time went on, she found her footing with this show, and it was a shame we missed it the first time around because it was very tough. She was starting to what's the word? She was starting to break out basically. Like as time went on, the director jobs were, I guess, few and far between until she came back with Sunny Boy, basically. Sunny Boy, The Dragon Goes House Hunting. I heard they're both very good dubs. I just haven't had the time to watch them. I'll check them out someday. I'm not too worried.
You don't have to apologize. That's the motto of every anime fan. This sounds great. I just haven't had the time to get to it yet because there's too much being created. You won't have time to get to everything, even the really good stuff. There's only 24 hours in a day. We've established there's only 162 hours in a week. There's just some stuff that's gonna slip through the cracks.
168, but who's counting? Yeah, it's not just that. It's like some things aren't gonna appeal to everybody, so you gotta pick and choose.
Good point. Good point.
Speaking of picking and choosing, we good to move on?
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is how did you feel about the way that they adapted how the fantasy world has different words for the same things we have in this world? For example, they don't call it the restaurant doesn't appear on Saturday, it appears on the day of Saturn, which that threw me for a couple of episodes because I thought, wait, are they trying to say Seder? Like Jewish Seder dinner? And then I realized, oh wait, no, they're trying to say once every 7 days, day of Saturday. Or like how some of the foods like onions, tomatoes, vegetables, meats have different words than their English counterparts. Did you feel that was adapted well in the English dub?
Having taken years of speech therapy and learned to adapt to certain languages, yeah, I do feel they did that pretty well because those are the kind of things I can kind of pick up on pretty quickly, like shripe. I forgot what they used for onion, but I recognize
it was like
that
it was like Orion, something. Yeah, a very deliberate attempt to address the fact that why would people in a fantasy world have the same names for food as our world if they develop different cultures, basically.
The one that kind of took me a while to get used to was a cobless tubers because I thought it was like cobless tubers. I thought they would call it potatoes corn, to be honest, but no, it's a cobless tubers.
Yeah,
there's so many bees in there.
I mean, it makes sense that potatoes are tubers, and it's like okay, so they could have translated that as like peasants tubers or commoners tubers, something like that.
I said cobblers, it's cobblers tubers.
Right, no, I know that they went with cobblers. I'm saying they could have translated it with something just to emphasize that it's something that low-class people eat.
Well, a cobbler is kind of a low-class thing, like if you ever seen the cobbled street, that kind of thing,
No, I get that. I'm saying that the choice of the dubbing crew to go with the word cobbler as opposed to like commoner or peasant was an interesting choice. And as you emphasized, there's a lot of B's in the way that's spoken. It's like that's a tongue twister right there. But I wanted to note that it was very a simple, effective, not very complex, but basic way to get across that yes, this is a fantasy world that doesn't have all the same rules as our world does. Another example is they don't call them vampires in the second season. They call them like the dark, what's it called? Like the dark race, or like what was the term for it? There's a special term that the girl who like chose to become a vampire went with, just to emphasize that same tropes but different words as what we're used to.
The Black Brood, also
thank
you, Vampire Nation.
Thank you, Black Brood. Yeah, so it's like we can pick up like okay, claws, teeth, wings. You're a vampire. Like we don't need to have that spelled out, but we get it. You're a vampire, but you guys call it Black Brood. It's like it's those little things that's peppered throughout the dub that I feel like if it wasn't written well by Jamie or Jessica, that it could have been difficult for the audience to bridge that gap. But I think that they did it pretty well. So there's very little difficulty, I feel, in an English speaker understanding this dub, given the complexity of it's a fantasy world and how does it relate to the real world, to our world. I'm sorry, I don't mean our world is the real world. There are lots of worlds. We're not the only world.
Anyway, I'm glad you mentioned the vampires, because that's another thing too. Because on one hand you have the vampires, and on the other hand with Romero and Julieta, who we're not talking about, I think they called themselves the Black Moon, because it's much like the elven races in this show. They're all from different walks. Not all elves are the same. So, which shout out to Zeno Robinson and Marissa Duran. Y'all were great, especially you, Zeno, as a Vanitas. Talk about Vanitas no carte. I thought it was Vanitas a la carte.
Oh, that's a triple layered reference there.
Yeah, but other than that, everybody did a pretty good job. From Alexis to Jamie, to Caitlin and Emmy, and to Jessica, who I'm pretty sure loves writing these slice of life kind of shows, if you will.
See, this is kind of a slice of life show. It's not plot heavy. It's just sit down and eat foods in a restaurant kind of show.
Did you get the joke though?
Slice of oh. I'm sorry, you had to spell it out for me to get okay. I get it now.
Anyways, speaking of slices, we good to move on?
Yes, we are good to move on.
So as we've established, we're not going to be covering every character in the show. We do not have time for that.
We're not. But
I know, ain't nobody got time for that. If there is somebody we do want to mention, we can do that in passing. Just sprinkle them out throughout the whole show. Cause
it's an ensemble show. There's a lot of different patrons, and I think the way that we had decided is that if a character shows up multiple times, then we'll devote a section to talking about them. If they're one-shot characters, we may mention them in passing, but not necessarily.
Yeah, multiple times, or if they're integrated into the core of the show, which we'll get to later. Mm-hmm. Starting off, let's talk about our restaurant staff.
All right.
We have Master, who took over the restaurant 10 years ago from his deceased grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Worked under him as an apprentice at one point. Oh, it's an interesting story to be had about him, but you never know this unless you were paying attention. One day he has a new hire. He hires a demon girl that suddenly just walked into a restaurant named Aletta. Aletta is a human born with the blessing of the demon's blessing, which causes her to manifest horns in her head. As a result, she was discriminated in her village and essentially kind of forced out, which is just a shame. But
it is
just a sweet girl, just trying to get by. But she has to hide who she is just to survive.
The only thing that she does that really emphasizes her connection to the demons is that when they're about to eat, she doesn't pray to God. She doesn't thank a holy religion. She thanks the Dark Lord for the food that they're about to eat.
God, demons is great. God, demons is good.
I love that because it's so cheery. It's like, this is who I pray to, and thank you for putting food on my plate. Don't think there's anything wrong with this. And there's not. Pray to whoever you feel blessed you with good food.
Oh, yeah, that's the rest of the vibe. God, the demons is great. God, the demons is good. Thank you for this food. Let us enjoy this on this plate. Oh, thank you for it's on this plate. Yeah, speaking of demons,
yes.
About, what was it, episodes? I think it was episode 6 from that.
Nope, episode 7, the chicken curry episode.
Yes, it was the chicken curry episode. We also have another new hire, Kuro, whose real alias is the Black Dragon, one of the 6 dragons that defeated the Chaos Monster. As a result, the humans that were born in the alternate world are kind of weak, and to put it simply, she's basically the what if Typhoid Mary got a food license. Her ability is so strong that it kind of kills any humans she kind of touches. So she casts herself, she self exiles herself to a destructive part of the moon out in the edge of space, and all of a sudden, a meteor crashes out there one day. The door to another world opens up, and she shows up in a birthday suit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's not the only one
no.
who does
She
that.
transforms. She transforms into an elf to show up in a birthday suit, but she's not the only one.
Yeah, that's that element right there. If I can pause for a divergent, is one element of the show that kind of separates it from the healing anime crowd. Healing anime crowds aren't usually horny. They're usually very chaste and very pure, whereas this show is very full of booby-tastic. You don't see nipples exactly. You see no nudity, but it makes no. It's not afraid to have some characters be semi-nude or very voluptuous. There's some characters who you see like their silhouettes, and Kuro's introduction is a good example of that. It's kind of an element of the anime that you have to get used to. So that's the PG-13 element. In case there's anyone listening out there who's wondering if you can show this to children, that would be the part that you need to be worried about.
Yeah, 6, 7, and Leonard's narration in the steamed potatoes episode.
That was interesting visuals they went with on the steamed potato side. But sorry, anyways, you were talking about this trio who mans the restaurant. Or demons the restaurant, rather.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, and that's another thing too. They only show just master working. As far as I noticed, there are no other employees other than Aleta and Kuro.
That's so wild. Like, can you imagine, like, before Aleta and Kuro showed up, that he was just doing all of the serving and the preparing of food and the cleaning all by himself?
Well, with an eatery as small as that, it is kind of possible. I've seen some clips on YouTube of eateries like that in Japan. There's also when you get a chance to get out to it, the Great Jahi will not be defeated. It's also kind of similar too, because it's one employee and two for the house staff, and they just have to handle all these customers. It is manageable in a way, but that is something for another time.
Fair enough.
Playing the restaurant staff, Master is played by Christopher Sabat. Aleta is played by Jill Harris. And Kuro is played by Monica Rial. Christopher Sabat, you've heard him as Ukyo Asahita in Brothers Conflict, and Ayame Soma in Fruits Basket. Fruits Basket. I'm just laughing for the fruits part. That show itself is nothing to laugh at.
It's not. I'm only laughing because you keep bringing up Brothers Conflict. You mentioned it in the writing section, and now you mentioned it here, and I'm like, why do you keep going back to the worst reverse harem ever made?
I know what you're thinking, and I'm just picking shows we both recognize.
Fair enough. I wish I didn't recognize it, but I can't fault you for that.
Jill Harris, you've heard as Noelle Silver in Black Clover, and Mahō in Orange. Monica Rial, no citation needed, but just in case
I've never heard of this actress before. Could you mention maybe 2 or 20 things she's been in before?
Kaede Kaido, The Assassination Classroom, and Suyu Asui in My Hero Academia.
That's fair enough. I'm looking at my shelf right now. I'm like, let me see here. Panty Stocking. Yep, she was stocking in that. Angelic Layer, all the way back in the ADV days. Yeah, she was a character in that. Yeah, you're right. No citation needed. Monica Rial, more powerful than God in the voice acting sphere.
I just realized another show I need to finish too.
Oh.
The Demon Girl Next Door season 2. Because she's also a demon in that, and at one point she's also working in a restaurant.
Well, Oh, really?
Yes.
Eventually, all demons start working at restaurants. I'm pretty sure they worked in a restaurant in one episode of Panty and Stocking as well, which is fitting because how does that show end?
His stocking gets turned into a bunch of jelly cubes.
Yep, and Monica says to the camera, "I'm also a demon." So.
Oh wait, no, Patty gets turned into a bunch of cubes. His stocking does her in. And
Yes.
Stocking's the food addict.
Yes, she is. Just like in the she's not a food addict in this show. She's an addict of one particular food, which is another quirk of this show in that all the characters have names, and we can mention those as we go along. But they refer to each other. The patrons refer to each other by their preferred favorite food. Everybody's got a favorite food. So if Kuro was going to be referred to by anyone, she'd be referred to as chicken curry by everyone because she loved that spicy chicken curry that they make on her first day.
For 2 hours straight, she ate that curry.
I'm surprised. That was a lot of plates. That's like the poor guy, was it Alphonse, who said he was going to front her bill because he was so happy to see her enjoying it? He went broke. The poor man went broke that day.
Partially, we'll get to that part of the story later.
Yes, we will.
So
what?
Sorry, go ahead.
What did you think of these three? Since these are the three recurring characters who are, in every episode from their introduction onwards, how did you feel?
Christopher Sabat was nice and charming. Wasn't a lot to him, or not yet. Jill as a letter. Jill's always manages to play the very nice but very anxious types of characters. It's basically, I would say it's kind of a true to life thing if you know an actor and you know the types of characters they play. But sometimes actors are not always their characters. Actually, no, a lot of times actors are not always their
characters.
Most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. We have to emphasize that at conventions. Actors have to emphasize, guys,
yes.
I appreciate you enjoy my character, but I am not that character. So
basically, is the misnomer if you are what you eat, which kind of applies to this show, because is basically tell me what you eat, and I'll tell you what you are. Mm-hmm. Which somehow became you are what you eat, which is not the same thing, especially when it comes to characters and actors too. So, but Jill did a very good job as a letter.
Yeah, she doesn't. I didn't peg her as like she was gonna have a whole lot of personality throughout the show, because like I kind of figured from early on that we needed a blank slate waitress character as just like a nice face to say hello to the rotating cast of characters as they come in, and she was that. But what I love about Jill's performance is that she's kind of a dork. Like, there are certain scenes where, she gets excited about food, like the different dishes, because she's getting to try lots of really good, well-prepared meals, and she gets to display the joyful glee that your average person would display when they get to try that. One line that I really love is the cookies episode, episode 8, where the chef gives her a box of cookies for getting a full-time job, and her line delivery is basically, "I'm going to treasure these forever." No, actually, that's not true. I'm going to eat them all right now. Like, just the little break of her nice girl routine to show that, she's got, like, a dorky side to her. I love when Jill does that, and that really elevates Aletta's character from just a nice moe girl into, like, a more humanized portrayal of an actual working student. Because she's, like, basically portrayed as, almost like a college student who's just working a job to get by in life.
What's a student? What's college?
Yeah, that's another question. I fully expected there to be like a spin-off of this show that was like a chibi version of Aletta going to, human school and trying to fit in. Like, almost like Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
Okay, well, two things. One, I said that because that was an actual thing that was uttered in season 2.
That it was, you're right, in the very first episode of season 2.
And the second thing is there actually is kind of a spin-off. I think it's of the manga version, but we'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like how Joe portrays this character again. Is to tell me what you eat, I'll tell you what you are mentality. Because when somebody's that anxious, that kind of down to luck, it's like nothing's gonna stop her. She's gonna keep on trying her best, no matter how other people may treat her.
Mm-hmm.
But
You're
what
right.
I but what kind of funny is of the three, I think the standout here is Monica is Kuro because for one thing, Kuro doesn't speak with her mouth. Kuro speaks with a lot of telepathy.
I gotta say, I think Monica did a great job with the lip flaps in this show. Like, nothing was off. I couldn't notice a change between the lip flaps and her dialogue. It was perfect. Like, you could tell this woman's been doing this for a while.
You joke, but there were the last two episodes at the end of season one, she actually started speaking with her mouth.
That's true, you're right. There are scenes, you're right, if you watch the animation.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, there was a running gag in the manga I read. Well, I didn't read the manga, I just read about that gag that was in the manga where apparently she would be able to serve the customers their order before they would order it. There's only been one scene where that's happened in season two. That's with Lionel ordering his pork
Is
cut
pork cutlet bowl.
Yeah, pork cutlet bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, excuse me. And then Kuro just hands him his food. And he's like, hey, how'd you know?
Which, honestly, like, you don't even need telepathy for that, because all the lion guy orders is pork cutlet bowl, so that's not... I don't feel like that's a power of telepathy. That's more of a, if I don't know what this guy wants by this point, I'm not good at my job.
Yeah, you say that, but that was also a common thing with the other customers because up until like the end of season two, they just kept ordering the same thing. There wasn't really any difference in what they ordered except for two characters, but we'll get to them later.
Yes, we will. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Now, do I agree that that Monica's Kuro is the standout? I feel like Aletta gave Jill more to work with. So in that
definitely.
sense, I feel like, yeah, because Kuro's performance is like it's still using her normal voice, which is a little bit higher pitched, but like the drier, more not monotone, but like laid back portrayal because she's the cool, calm, collected character.
I think I agree with you. It's just the reason I said that is because Cole kind of goes through a bit of character growth on her own because I know when it came down to the chicken curry, when the Red Queen spoke to her, she discussed how things worked in the other world with the restaurant, and
Money.
so she kind of took it to heart what she said about working for the master and protecting the restaurant, which she did a few times. A few of the sirens, the vampires, just making sure that nobody harms this restaurant. And there was a very good reason why we get to the Red Queen too. So,
I mean, discounting even those, like the part that stood out to me for how she's keeping everyone safe is it's the episode where the cat girl returns.
Oh yeah, with her friends.
Yeah, actually it's both of those halves of the episodes because I don't think we mentioned this. Each episode has two halves that are separate from each other, don't necessarily connect to each other. So each 24 episode show is like two 12-minute episodes glued together. But in that same episode, it's like episode 8 of the second season, Kuro mentions to the characters there's no fighting allowed in this eatery, and that's the first time that's really brought up. She tells the new vampire girl, Rorona, not to fight, and she also takes away the weapons of the 3 friends of Hilda who are there for cheesecake, because, yeah, her role in the restaurant is to not allow there to be any fighting. So, yeah, you're right, she has that very specific role that no one else on staff can possibly fill.
Yeah, basically.
Now, I feel like it's interesting that we've spent all this time talking about the 2 waitresses, Aletta and Kuro, and we don't really have that much to say about the chef. And I feel like there's a very good reason for that, because the chef doesn't really have a whole lot of character. He doesn't even have a name.
which is sad because his relatives has names and well, I'll get more into his relatives in the next section, but it's also a Junichi Suwabe character, so if
It's
he's
a
not,
Junichi Suwabe character. Yes, it is. I'm glad you mentioned that.
so if it's not anything big he's doing, it's not gonna be as important. But the chefs are always behind the scenes, working hard. So it's a thankless job, basically.
Oh, it is definitely a thankless job, and he's definitely working for below his pay grade. He could be charging way more for these dishes. I just feel it's interesting from a writing perspective that the author of the stories and the adapters of the anime decided not to give the chef character very much in the ways of, a conflict or a personality of any kind. I compare this directly to another show that you and I have talked about before, Konohana Kitan. That's a show
Oh
that
yeah,
also had, that had, a wait staff taking care of patrons, and those people, the fox spirits from that show, had a whole lot of personality. We followed their personality throughout the show, and that carried each individual episode. Whereas in this, the staff decided that the chef is crucial to hold the restaurant together, but we're not here to explore his personality, his conflict. We see a couple of episodes where Chris gets to explain how he may be a little tired and, he's working really hard at this, but he never seems to struggle. He's always on top of things and never lets the pressures of this job get to him.
yeah. I think one of the things is that I forgot to bring this up is I think the reason why the eatery kind of functions the way it does is he probably has like a type of system in place. Because I remember years ago back in culinary school, there was a video I watched of this one restaurant in New York. Every week they changed out the menu for something different or some type of cuisine. Or maybe like something seasonal. And I thought it was kind of insane the way they were doing it, but they somehow managed to function. I think that's probably how the master functions as well.
Really?
Probably.
That's
I'd have to find that for you. It's been a long time.
Well, it's interesting. I find that interesting because one thing that I haven't gone to culinary school, so I do not have the level of experience that you do. My mom, though, did work as a restaurant manager for many years. She worked as a restaurant manager at a Bill Knapp's here in West Michigan, and then at a local Holland eatery. And one thing that I know was kind of emphasized a lot was if you don't have a very specific vision for your restaurant, basically, if you have a lot of dishes, then people are going to have a hard time knowing what it is that your restaurant is, basically. Whereas this restaurant in this show has a lot of everything. Like, we've gone through the list of everything on there. There doesn't seem to be a limit on what they've got on here. But it's interesting you bring up that idea that sometimes a restaurant for one day of the week will change out their menu to something very different from what they normally do. Because that's just contrary to what I thought was the way you're supposed to run a restaurant.
Yeah, to each their own.
You're right. You're right. It's
And speaking of to each their own, let's move on to our cream of the crop, our characters here. Now,
yes.
we're gonna be doing this in the two groups.
All right.
We have those behind the scenes, pretty much the major players, I guess you could say.
Like
In this,
the ones who show up the most throughout the show.
yes, and somewhere kind of integral into this restaurant. Starting off, we have the four heroes. Uh, Now, I have to put a big asterisk in there because. Okay, let me explain. So, the four heroes basically, 70 years ago, they defeated the demon god of the other world. However, as a result, a wormhole was opened up and their leader, Yobi, was lost.
Yes.
Turns out, Yobi survived and she, through the wormhole, came to our world, where she met a man named Daiki Yamagata. Not Daiki Yamashita, like I put in the guide one time. That's a Seiyu. Daiki Yamagata. They basically fell in love. got married, had a couple of kids, ran the restaurant together, Western Restaurant Nicoya, and it turns out she had still retained a little bit of her magic, which is part of what that wormhole was. The wormhole was actually the door itself. Actually, no, the wormhole became the door to the other world.
Yeah, and that's the most that we learn, if I understand correctly, just from the anime. Because I haven't read spoilers from the manga. I'm sorry, not the manga. The web novel itself.
Yeah,
That's all we. So. Yeah, that's all we know about how this restaurant works. Like in the show, it's never really explained why this door to this restaurant works the way it does. Why it only shows up once a week. Even the chef himself admits, I really don't know how it works. It just kind of does what it does.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever explained to him until the last episode of season 2, where his grandmother walks by. Yes, I said his grandmother. She had a couple kids, and one of the kids had a master. Don't ask me what happened to the parents, because either I don't know or I'm not spoiling.
It's not important. It's like Huey, Dewey, and Louie's dad. It's not important.
Unfortunately, yeah. Anyway, she comes by the restaurant, explains to her that if he ever decides to end this whole thing, she has the essentially the master key to the restaurant, which is the key to the door to the other world. All he would have to do is just break it.
Yep.
But anyways, glad to see that she's alive, because some of her other teammates specifically Alexander. Was kind of worried about her. Alexander is a half-elf, member of the Four Heroes. It's kind of a sad tragedy, because he came to this restaurant later in life because his son Wilhelm, who we'll get to later, the last thing he kind of talked to him about was these croquettes he ate at this restaurant. He had a strained relationship with, believe it or not, some of his other family, who we'll also get to later.
Like, you thought the croquettes in Kill la Kill looked delicious? Oh, they got nothing on what Alexander is looking for.
I'm going to be honest, initially I did not want to put him on this list, because there was at one moment a battle between him and Lionel, which he said, according to his employer, that he was going to sell him off to the arena to become the gladiator. And his proceeds would be 30% of whatever he has. So I thought, that little prick. But
he's not framed as the nicest guy, even before we learned that. Like in his premiere episode, the last episode of season 1, he's not really framed as a good guy. He's kind of a prick.
Yeah, but yet somehow the rest of his crew went to save the world from the demon god, which also includes his buddy the sage and his old friend Artorias. He's one of the first patrons you see in the restaurant in episode 1. Man loves himself pork cutlet and beer. He was responsible for the menu creation. Basically, he was responsible for translating everything into the Eastern Continent's language, along with his pupil, the half-elf Victoria, who also gets to later.
The dessert menu.
Yes.
That's an interesting element that you brought up, is that whenever a new character shows up, the staff always ask them, can you read the language of the Eastern land? Which is, it kind of implies like, okay, so that's how we're going to cover for the word Japanese in this, because everything's written in Japanese. But it's kind of established that, no, it's also, there's a land in this fantasy world in the East, and everything's translated into their language. As you said, thanks to Arturus.
Yes. And here's where the asterisk comes in, because the fourth hero was basically, I think, God of White. I forgot the entire detail, but he was never characterized in the anime. So to round him out, we have Tatsugoro. He's a wandering swordsman from the Western Continent's mountain nation. He's good friends with Artorias, but they do kind of butt heads over the dishes together, which is a constant thing in this episode, and that's one I'll get to later. So, Oh yeah, I also forgot that was another thing I liked about Atlanta when she has to read off most of the orders in one take during that argument episode. But yeah, playing these four, we have as Alexander, we have Michael Solusad, who you've heard as Mitsuki Kamisama Kiss, and Suwon in Yoda of the Dawn. Yobi, to verify, we'll go with we always see Yobi the flashback, and as the old lady, we do not know who plays the old lady.
Mm-hmm.
But as younger Yobi, we have Michelle Rojas, who plays Toki Yatagami in Data Life, and Koyagami in New Game.
Yay, New Game!
Artorias is voiced by Charles Campbell, whose other roles include Gensei Kihara in A Certain Scientific Railgun, and Keiichiro Koibuchi in Princess Jellyfish.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tatsugo, we have John Swasey, who you've heard as Soroku, and Allison Soroku, and Senzaimon Nakiri in Food Wars, as a matter of fact. And then also... Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was like, with John Swasey, I think of like his roles in the uncle in Summer Wars, or the Beast in The Boy and the Beast.
Yeah, basically. And then the other half of the group, we have the foodies. Basically, they kind of use the innovations, if you will, to kind of further themselves along the culinary career. We have Thomas and Sirius Alfade. Thomas is the proprietor of the Alfade company, which did a lot of trade with the restaurant. Basically, he was lauded as the innovator, culinary genius, if you will, bringing pasta dishes and pasta sauces to the other world. When in reality, it was because of a trade agreement he had with the restaurant, just so he could eat their spaghetti with meat sauce.
It's interesting that they translate the show as a restaurant to another world. It might be more accurate to call it restaurant to a future world, because the innovations that all these characters experience aren't really like alternative dimension stuff. It's just things that won't be invented in your timeline for a couple hundred more years. Pizza, for God's sake. Pizza hasn't been invented yet. So of course it tastes like the greatest thing ever.
It's funny you mentioned pizza, because his grandson Sirius also comes with him. He's pretty much discovers his grandfather's secret, and then in the second season he decides to come with his friend Jonathan, who's a chef, because Sirius lacks a culinary palate, and he wants his friend John to try out what the restaurant has to offer. And one of the things they offer is Neapolitan pizza.
We have to make it the pizza.
Yeah, which leads me to believe that I'm probably gonna offend some people. These are probably the Italians of the other world.
Yeah. I mean, their last name is Alfade, for goodness sakes. It's like just a few letters off from Alfredo. I don't think it's a far stretch to say they're the Italians of this world.
Yeah, but oh man, it is very impressive to see a story unfold in real time. It's like, oh wow, you come to check out the competition. Speaking of checking out the competition, we have Fardania, who is a half elf. Raised in a village with her widowed father. She goes to gather ingredients for dinner and comes across the door to the restaurant, and decides to give it a go. And but she encounters a challenge. For you see, because elves are vegan, basically. Well, no, they are vegan. Yeah.
They are, not basically, they are. No fish, no meat, no dairy, no eggs. Nothing that comes from an animal.
So she puts Chef to the challenge, and what did Chef pull out for her? A rice, was it? Yeah, it was a rice
tofu steak.
Right? No, tofu steak.
It's two. There's two episodes. In the first time she shows up, tofu steak, which yes, absolutely no meat in that. The second episode, she shows up with a character that you're about to mention in a second, and they don't have tofu steak ready, but they make instead. I just had it written down. Where did it go? What you just said.
Rice burger.
Rice burger. Yes, both the bun and the inside of it is entirely made out of vegetables, but it has the consistency and the flavor almost of a burger.
Alright, to continue with the story, so after she has the tofu steak, she decides to do a culinary undertaking and decides to develop her own dishes. At which point she encounters another half elf, Alice. She was born to a pair of half elves, but she turned out to be a changeling, which kind of makes her mature much slower than everybody else. Unfortunately, she was abandoned by her village, and she was later found by Fardania in the woods, one of the camping sites. The two take a trip to the restaurant, where they end up eating a lovely, delicious rice burger with, I think, tempura vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was tempura at the very least in there.
It was, I think that the inside of it. The outside was, like, the bun itself was almost like an onigiri, but yeah, the inside of it was like tempura vegetables.
Yeah, the thing about Alice is she's happy-go-lucky. That is to say, she is a little bit of a klutz, but she is not afraid to speak her mind. And Fardania decides to take her as an apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
To which, episode 9, the fruit jelly, she encounters this lovely dessert in the other world, and she decides to find out how it was made. To which she comes across this mermaid named Camilla, which they don't know she's a mermaid because she, she.
Not to be confused with the mermaid from a previous episode. I think her name was Arte. This is a
Arte.
different mermaid character.
Yeah, there was a very good reason I left her off the list, and I'll explain later. But yeah, they don't know she's mermaid because she prayed to the Lord, the God of Blue, for. I guess it never showed it was human. It was human legs, I think it was. Anyway.
No, it was what legs with it? It was like scaled legs. It was like
Look, all I know is with Arte, it was scaled legs. It was bird legs, but they never showed Camilla's.
Bird legs. Yeah.
Why are we even talking about legs, man? I just want drumsticks all of a sudden. Anyway, they come across Camilla and ask her how she make this fruit jelly, and she exclaims to them that she doesn't exactly know how to. She found this dish interesting because, like the other two, she also had it at the restaurant. So, Fardania kind of feels defeated because, at one point she just tried to one up the restaurant, because again, not a lot of the stuff they find in nature or has been able to develop yet. So a lot of this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is a society that doesn't have like modern refrigeration, or it's just barely learned what fermentation is. Like they're just underdeveloped compared to the restaurant from another world. So it's almost not even fair to try to keep up with the dishes that are being served to them.
Yeah, wait till they discover what pectin is. But playing these six.
Oh.
Thomas is played by Barry Yardell, who you heard as William T. Spears in Black Butler. And Henry Henderson is by Family. Sirius is played by Stephen Fu, who plays Machio in How Heavy the Dumbbells You Lift. And Genji and Kakurio, Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. Jonathan is played by Alex Mai, who's pretty much a newcomer. He doesn't have a lot of major roles. I know him more as a writer and ADR prep guy. But you can hear him as Animus in Lucifer the Biscuit Hammer. Man, those biscuits must be pretty hard if you need a hammer.
That was a show that I have not seen at all, and I don't think I have a desire to. That the reputation goes a long way, people, and that...
Yeah, I've heard that. Believe me, I feel bad for Chad.
Yes, that's no criticism to the people who worked on it or our colleagues who've had to watch it for this podcast.
Yeah, and he's also manga Fukidashi in My Hero Academia Season 5. Fardania is voiced by Don Bennett, who we've also heard as we mentioned, Satsuki in Konohana Kitan, and Reiko in Super Cub.
I'd like to call out Don Bennett as the person who I follow on Twitter who got super into Bluey and was the one person who I followed who was like hyped for when Season 3 dropped. So thank you, Don Bennett. You are not the only grown adult out there who was hyped for Bluey.
Also, thank you for that joke on TikTok about the this is a Filipino dish, a sweet dish, and I'm not gonna say the name. Actually, no, I'll tell you the name after. This was kind of funny as hell. I was like, oh, that is an unfortunate name.
Huh. Yeah, you'll have to tell me that later. 'Cause I don't know
Anyway,
any Filipino dishes.
anyway, Alice is voiced by Emmy Lowe, who voices Reina Ryugu in the new Higurashi remake, and Naru
Mm.
Kakushigoto. Camilla is voiced by Brianna Roberts, who you've also heard as Emma Spring in Astra Lost in Space, and Ryoka in Stars Align.
Oh, okay. Alright, so I've actually seen
So,
both of those. I didn't recognize her in the show. So, yeah, so I think I'd like to really hammer through this list here. Is there anything to you that stands out as wasn't done well in this group? Or can we just agree that it was uniformly everyone sounded good and filled their roles well?
I'm gonna say yes, but with the exception of Barry Yandel, because Barry kind of puts up this charming front, and then when his facade drops after his grandson finds out what he was actually doing with the trading company, he's like, "Yeah, I did it before, and I'll do it again." I really like that total shift in his voice. You know?
I love that line. That, that no regrets whatsoever because one, it made him rich, and two, it's darn good food. So why would you not take advantage of knowing what it is?
Yeah, basically. That having been said, Stephen and Alex and Sirius and Jonathan, I thought those two was very charming. Though I have not heard a lot of Alex by roles, to be honest, and I know this is just somewhat new to both of us, but I thought he did pretty good as what might be the more mature of the two, because
Mm-hmm.
again, Sirius just brings Jonathan to this restaurant to get a taste for the food, no pun intended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
So,
Jonathan's got a job, whereas Sirius is like shadowing under his already rich relatives. Jonathan's actually, working day to day. So yeah, I'd agree that Alex gives him more of a mature personality compared to Steven, who's more pie in the sky with his character, who, he doesn't have to worry about money. He just gets to, like, I can't wait until 7 days comes and I get to try this amazing mystery dish that's made with tomatoes. Or whatever they called it in the fantasy world.
I think it was Marmite's. Yeah, Marmite's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it started with an M, but yeah, Marmite's is the... Yeah, just,
Which
again,
look like
different.
cube tomatoes, to be honest.
It's square tomatoes. Go to your garden, people. Like, it's the wrong season for that. But if you ever go to your garden, and if you find tomatoes growing in cube form, you need to get that to National Geographic, because that is not how they're supposed to grow.
Yeah. But,
Unless you're in, like, Minecraft. Yeah, so... I'm trying to think, like, did anything else really stand out here? Micah portrayed the, I don't want to call it sliminess of Alexander, but like almost like the I think I'm better than you persona. Especially
I'd call it the anti-hero persona, because even though he did some heroic deeds, he was anything but heroic, really.
Well, I'm not just talking about what he did in wartime. I'm talking about when he first shows up in the restaurant. And we know he's looking for croquettes. He's looking for really good croquettes. But he's got, like, a very demeaning persona towards the waitstaff. Maybe not demeaning, but he's definitely the least nice compared to everybody else. Everybody else is just, like, very grateful to be there and willing to wait.
There is an explanation for that. You gotta keep in mind, this was from an older time he grew up in, so discrimination among demons, and of course he did help defeat the demon god. So his old habits die hard for him, kind of. Because I also remember there was at one point he had to help his family. He had to help his family escape a war, and after a long time, he never saw them again. So there's also another personal reason why, he kind of feels this not this citrus. What is it? disdain, basically, because of
Mm-hmm.
everything he's been through, everything he's going through now. So
Yeah, and I do think that Micah portrays that mix of both heroic and anti-heroic characteristics pretty well. Like the persona, I didn't listen to any of this in the Japanese, so I can't confirm what the archetypes were. But just looking at the character designs, I get the sense of like, okay, these are very archetypal Japanese voices that were given to them. So the English equivalent would also have to be kind of archetypal. And Micah's young male heroic but not very nice character fits with what Alexander is on paper. So I have no qualms with the way that he portrayed the character.
I will say though, there was one thing I did not like about Alexander. That's when you first introduced to him, and he best Lionel for about I think not in 3 seconds, but it was. Oh no, he stabbed his sword in a particular spot and paralyzed him. He said, "It'll be back to normal in about 3 days or so." There was a line he said that kind of sounded very vulgar. He's like, which sword are you talking about? The one in my hand or the one down below?" I'm like, really? Really?
Oh,
Yes.
I must have missed that line. I didn't know there was a dick joke in there.
Yeah, when you go back to Lionel's episode, yeah, it's when he's defeated it's when he's defeated in the I forget where he was defeated. It was some palace or something. Apparently,
Yeah.
there was apparently a whole reason why Lionel was defeated, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I don't remember the. I think it was I do think I remember the scene you're talking about, but I didn't realize it was Alexander at the moment because he hadn't really been like properly introduced. We learn about Lionel because there's no other lion characters, and yeah, we do see he's on like this Planet Hulk type situation where he's being held prisoner to be a warrior.
wow, that was a reference.
It's like I know it's Roman style setup, but I've just got Marvel movies on the brain, I guess.
Yeah, I
The
feel you.
only actually I didn't catch Alexander's off color remark, but I did. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but did Charles Campbell as Arturus describe one of his dishes as, and I quote, "soft as an angel's bosom," in the episode where they're all fighting over who's got the better dishes?
Yeah, it sounds like an old man, all right.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. But it wasn't even said in a perverted kind of way. It was just like, I need to describe how, soft and appealing this dish is. So I'm gonna compare it to I got two options. I can compare it to a baby's butt or an angel's bosom. I'm gonna go with angel tits. That's where I'm gonna go with this. It's just a very like the one like a line that again shows the semi horny atmosphere that the show has from time to time.
Yeah, and yeah, yeah. Charles Campbell did a very good job. I don't get to talk about him often, but man, he's somebody I wish I could hear more of. I know he's like Gran Torino in My Hero Academia, but even then, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like he Barry. Who else? Yeah, he's
Um,
very kind of niche. Like you don't hear them as much as in things as you should, but when you do hear them, they're always great. Along with one other person in the next section, but getting back to things. Speaking of old people, Yobi, because Michelle Rojas did a very good job playing this mature type of character. Because the whole deal with Yobi is that I learned this just earlier today. She was born to an Oni and a priestess, and apparently they decided to team up with her to defeat the demon god, and she took it as a chance to, I guess, understand humanity. So, which is why she is kind of the way she is. I'm just a little sad we don't know who voices the older version, which we see more of at the end.
yeah, and I was kind of listening for like, are they the same character? I'm sorry, the same actresses?
They're
Because
not.
Yeah, there's definitely a change in the sound between the two of them. But yeah, I couldn't tell just by listening by ear who the English actress was for the older version.
I have a hunch who it may be because there's only two people I can think of, and Julie Erickson is retired. But just to be safe, I'm not going to say who.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to tell
we,
you after the episode. So
Okay. All right. Fair. But yeah, for the parts that we do hear, Michelle's performance of the character, it's a welcome addition to the lore of the restaurant itself. Like, we didn't necessarily need this. We could have gone through the whole show of just vignettes without the explanation about where the restaurant comes from or how it's able to connect to the fantasy world. But because she is carrying this familial connection to the main chef and the magic that ties the restaurant to the fantasy world, she does a very good job in her performance. And I'm glad that the show decided to have just enough reward for the people watching long term to explain to them the backstory of how this came about.
yeah, I think that's the whole thing too, especially with Master, because I realize now Master is just exposition basically, and he expresses himself also through the variety of dishes that are served. But I think what it is with most slices of life, there's really plot that kind of goes nowhere, or like it kind of ties into something that's never really explained. At least we get like some type of explanation, because even if you don't think about it, you kind of gotta wonder like, I wonder like how he manages to like stay afloat. Because again, with the whole restaurant thing, with him, because if he didn't have this clientele basically, and things just were kind of normal, he probably would have been out of business. So I think that's also kind of at least to me, what the king represents too. Like if he wanted to end things, like if he had no other choice, basically.
Well, I got the sense that he could have easily gone into working in a restaurant that was going to actually pay him a decent salary in the human world. But that connection that his family has to the fantasy world, he could walk away from that. He doesn't have to keep doing this, but he does feel such a connection to it that... And they explain in some parts when people mention that, dude, you're charging way less for this food than you should be. You're charging me like a couple of coppers for this Mont Blanc when I've got a noblewoman in my world who's offering 400 silver coins for it. You're doing stupid business here. And his response is a very reasonable... It's not about the money exactly. It's about seeing the happiness on people's faces. And as long as I'm covering my base expenses, that's all I need to make this a fulfilling job.
Yep. And speaking of making this a self-fulfilling job, the elves and Camilla, because their job is just trying to to cultivate any new dishes they find into their own. Because Dawn is Fardania has a very mature air about her. And, I know I listed Satsuki as a one example, but to me, when she's in a very serious mode, she kind of reminds me of Colleen Clinkenbeard at times.
I can hear that. Yeah, that lower, more mature voice that Colleen brings to some performances is definitely what Dawn's going for. You separate her. You say separate Fardania from the characters like Aletta, or the younger female characters who are like Victoria, who are like more on the moe side, and Fardania is not that. She's definitely grown up. She's self-sustaining and takes things very seriously.
I just realized you can't spell Fardania without Dawn.
There's no W. I know you're
phonetically.
Really phonetically. We are not hooked on phonics here. You cannot just throw that into the recording and say, you can't spell this without Dawn. I'm like,
yeah. Speaking of hooked, Alice. I know people don't like compare voice actors to other voice actors, but I need something for a frame of reference, and Emmy to me kind of sounds like Stephanie Sheh with a little higher pitch, because they have that energy that ability to be peppy when need to be. I should know because I watched them in another show called D4DJ First Mix, or as I like to call it, Emilo Sugar Rush.
It's just if Emmy was in like video game from Wreck-It Ralph.
Something like that. Like when you see her play these types of characters, it's amazing like how much energy they can inject into these characters. Because I know. Alright, have you seen the new Higurashi or no?
No, I only saw the original.
Okay, then because I know in that show like she can display that energy in her voice very. They can display that voice, the energy in the voice very well. They can channel that energy whenever they need it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're also. But unlike Higurashi, I'm not worried too much about them. Like I know they're gonna be all right, but I like in Higurashi when they kind of scare the living crap out of me.
Which is good because in that show they're supposed to scare you.
Yeah.
I'm looking through her cast list on Behind the Voice Actors just to see like have I seen her in anything else, and I saw the My Hero Academia movie, but I don't recognize the character she was in that, and then everything else is like you said is like Higurashi remake. I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen the latest version of season of Show by Rock. So this show is my frame of reference for Emmy's overall performance capabilities. It's not really stand outish to me, at least in this show, because I've heard similar peppy yet scared female voices in other shows before, and this one's like, okay, this fits the mold very well. It just doesn't stand out to me as like I'm gonna remember this compared to other similar performances, and that's not a criticism at all. I'm trying to get at you've got to fill the hole. You got to fill the Alice-sized hole in the cast list here, and they were able to do that well with this actress who, as sounds like, has a much peppier tone in other shows.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of setting the tone, Rihanna is Camilla. The one thing I really like, cause every low to you, Rihanna doesn't really stand out to me as much. Like I've only ever seen her in Astra Lost in Space, among a couple other shows.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember her character in Astra Lost in Space. It's been a while since I've seen that one. I'm agreeing with you that I also was like, okay, Brianna's filling the role well, just not like standing out to me exactly.
Okay, side note, do you remember the mom to Megan Shipman's character?
In this show?
In Astra.
Oh, yes?
That's her. Anyway,
Yeah.
what I really liked about her voice is that, and I noticed this with a lot of other people too, mainly Terry Doty. Like she has this kind of lisp that just it kind of is charming on its own because it helps her make her voice very distinct from other people. I hear the show. So, yeah, because if somebody used to have a speech impediment, I understand how it could be like talking with a different kind of not dialect, but basically like learn to speak. I guess learning to speak properly and enunciate especially in a different world, because she has to do a lot of enunciating because a lot of the concepts she started to come across with this fruit jelly are kind of foreign to her. So when she's trying to explain it to the elves, it's like, okay, it's not as simplistic as it would look. So make sure the dialogue is a little bit difficult. I really think she pulled that off.
Yeah, it stands in contrast to the episode where the hamburger boys meet the lizard guy for the first time, and lizard guy is is like speaking in kind of like very gruff, simplistic language, whereas Camilla's dialogue is peppered with a lot of very complex things to say. I did not catch the lisp that you were talking about. I guess I wasn't listening for it. I should go back and see if I can catch that. But if it is an unintentional part of her performance, then that is interesting to me because if you can integrate not quite a speech impediment, but a unique vocal quirk into your performance, but have it not be a distracting part of your performance, then that's an asset, I feel, to a voice actress. I look at someone like Monica Rial, where you can usually tell it's her because she's got a very distinct way of speaking, but it's a kind that always enhances the performance. So I need to keep an eye out for more Brianna performances, as well as this one, to see if it's, if it stands out to me in a positive way. Because for this particular performance, it was just like, it's a basic good performance from an actress that I had not really heard, except from other show, had not really heard before. I think the thing I'm taking away from this whole group here is that, for the most part, everyone is easy to understand, but no one's really given like crazy cartoony sounds or personality traits that are I suppose like very out there to convey the fantasy-ness of this world. These sound like people that could come from our world, They've just got elven magic, or they're merchants, or they're royalty or mermaids. No one is really like a personality that you couldn't find in any metropolitan city in America.
Yep. All in all, they all did a very good job, and they all. It's amazing how very distinct everybody sounds from one another. Speaking of distinct,
yeah.
Speaking of distinct,
yeah. Who else frequents this restaurant from another world?
Yeah, so we're going on to our next group, which consists of a lot of frequent patrons, some more frequent than others. Starting off, we have Alphonse Flugel, who is a Navy admiral who was shipwrecked for the last 20 years on an island. He had to survive by hunting chimera and eating the meat. And then one day, the door appeared in front of him, and he jumped in. Was greeted by Daiki Yamagata, and was served. He was served
rice
beef
curry. Yep.
Yeah, he was served beef curry. He loved the dish so much that he made it a habit every 7 days to go back. He counted those days by making marks on stone rocks with his knife.
It's kind of, did it stand out as weird to you that he was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this restaurant every 7 days while I'm stranded on this island. That's great, but he never takes the opportunity to be like, hey, so can you like help me get off this island? Like, do you have like, I don't know, like a helicopter or flare so I can signal for help? Like anything besides just food to eat.
I don't think it would have been that easy because remember, the door only opens once every 7 days, and it can probably only fit whatever it can fit through the door. Mainly him, his weapons, any money he carried, which that's another thing in and of itself. I'll get to later.
I'm just saying, 20 years being trapped on an island, and your one connection to the outside world is, and you don't take advantage of it to try to build a boat off the island. I don't know. It's not a plot hole. It's a me thinking too hard about a simple premise about strangers coming to a restaurant. But much
like these other people, that one connection is what kept them going. Like, for example, Lionel.
Yes.
One of the oldest patrons. He's a powerful demon warrior from the Demon Kingdom, and he committed some crimes to the point he was not only caught but sold off into slavery.
Mm-hmm. But a few crimes.
Yeah, caught by Alexander, sold off into slavery, went to become a gladiator, was able to free himself by winning 100 matches. Because his freedom cost him 10,000 gold, and for every match he won was 100 gold, so he had to win 100 times. He almost did not go on living until he encountered the door to the restaurant, where he walked in and was served pork cutlet bowls.
Pork cutlet bowls!
Yeah. It gave him the energy, the strength he needed to fight. Well, of course, one wasn't enough. He had to have many, and he knew that. And Nike gave him that because he knew that as well. So,
and then after he got fed, he went on to become a champion figure skater.
I was gonna make a Yuri on Ice reference, but I said nah.
That's a Yuri on Ice reference, people. Katsudon is delicious. I will hear nothing to the contrary.
I must try it one of these days.
It's great. It's simple too. Like I think you could modify it even to your own preferences. It's very good.
Yeah.
Speaking of modifying,
yes, we have Victoria Samenai, who is a half elf, member of the ancient duchy, the family to the ancient duchy. It's weird. She was born to two humans, but because some elves kind of contaminated the gene pool, she was the only one of the children to be born with the abilities of an elf. Which
that's called recessive genes, people.
Yeah, recessive genes. Look up Punnett squares. So, because normally downplayed in society, down in society, she had two options. She could either be exiled to a half-elf village, she could disappear and never return, or what she did was the third option. She decided to hold herself up in another part of the castle to do research.
Mm-hmm.
She became the Witch of the Western Tower, or the Witch Princess of the Duchy.
Which I have to assume that all the references to the Duchy royal family, like that's got to be a reference to or an analog to the Dutch, or the Netherlands in our society, because those motherfuckers were traveling all around the world in medieval times, doing trade, conquering villages, taking over the world. Like that's got to be what Duchy is supposed to be an analog to in this show.
Probably, I don't know.
Right.
Anyways, she managed to make a lot of scientific creations, including a magical box that can keep, in this case, desserts cold, namely pudding.
She basically invented the igloo, people.
Basically. And then we have the Red Queen.
Calm down. She's not that voluptuous. She's just very, very voluptuous.
Oh yeah, side note, if you're worried about showing this to your kids, episode 1 as well.
Yes, there's yeah. This is a big queen, and we mean big.
Anyway, she's a shapeshifter red dragon, one of the 6 dragons that helped defeat the chaos monster. She resides in, I think it's some kind of cliff with a whole personal valet voiced by Chris George, surrounded by worldly treasures.
As dragons are tended to do.
But the one thing she desires most when she stepped foot into the restaurant to another world was beef stew.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, so much so that it's in the opening credits. You can literally see her breathing fire from the beef stew. Yeah.
Actually, I think all the characters we've talked about show up at some point in the opening credits, at least for season 1.
Yeah. But yeah, she has such a strong fondness for this restaurant that she's willing to protect it with her life. She was very hesitant when she noticed a letter coming onto the scene, but she realizes there is no malice to be had. She also displays this to Kuro as well, who tells her to guard this restaurant with her own life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to her, that beef stew is like gold. Speaking of gold, we also have
Oh, these segues are awful.
doing better than Andrew.
That's a low bar to clear, but yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah, we have adventurous Sarah Gold, who, according to the story, apparently has William's curse. Her grandfather William was a novel adventurer who first came to the restaurant to another world. After so much talked about his diary, which was found later, years later, by his granddaughter Sarah. Now, Sarah came from a esteemed family, a prestige family,
Mm.
but when she got hold of William's curse, she set out to seek treasure and seek adventure. She found the greatest treasure of all, and that was the door to the other world. And he could never understand why her grandfather was so fond of it until she stepped in one day and decided to have a bite.
There's nobody who goes to this restaurant who doesn't end up loving it. Like I was just waiting episode after episode for at least one person to be like, I mean, this is okay, but it's not that great. But no, everybody has a food gasm when they get a bite of this restaurant's cooking, and Sarah is no exception.
Look, just be glad it's a milder food gasm than Food Wars.
Much more mild, yes. I can't prove that this show was only created because Food Wars got so popular, but they definitely toned down that influence when they decided to do the showing people excited for the food. Nobody gets naked because the food's that good.
And speaking of excitement, we go on to our last frequent patron, Heinrich Sellerman, who's a soldier, a nobleman from the eastern continent, obsessed with fried shrimp, whose taste he had not enjoyed since he left his old childhood town to become a knight. He stumbled upon the restaurant when he was under attack by the Mothman in his village, and he had to relay a coded message. So he traveled on horseback. After a couple of days, he was stuck out in the blazing heat. His horse died after being poisoned, so he struggled on with nothing else in tow but the clothes on his back and the sword on his side. And then he came across this door one day.
On a horse with no name. Oh wait, no, actually, I'm not on a horse because he's dead.
And then he came across this door in a cabin one day, and he decides to venture through it in hopes of seeking shelter. Only to realize he actually stumbled into the restaurant, seeking seeking an offer from the master, which he gladly obliged. Gave him a free hand towel, glass of lemon water, and decided to serve him some fried shrimp because that's what he was real excited for.
Mm-hmm.
After what looks to be about 4, maybe 5 plates full, he decides to venture back but realizes he doesn't have the money to pay. So what does he do? He leaves his sword behind his collateral, which oddly enough was returned to him later 3 years after by Tatsugoro.
That was nice of the staff to accept his sword, because honestly, any legitimate business would look at him, look at the sword, look back at him, and be like, "Does this look like a pawn shop to you?"
Again, there's a deeper connection to the show. Still, waters run deep, as they say.
True
But
that.
yeah, play D6. As Alphonse, we have Jeremy Schwartz, who you've heard as Vincent Finetti in 91 Days, and the Black King and Drifters, but you would recognize him most as the narrator for Moonshiners. Jeremy,
Unless you haven't seen Moonshiners, in which case, no, you would not recognize him as that.
just watch clips on YouTube, that's all you gotta do. Anyway,
Alright.
Lionel is voiced by Jeremy Edmund, who you've heard as X in Beat X, and Shikamatsu and Hakata Tokotsu Ramens. Victoria is played by Jane Saxton, who you've heard as Eve Genoa in Bakano. And speaking of food,
No, you can't watch her as Eve Genoa in Bakano, because that show's not available in the United States anymore. Fuck you, Aniplex.
and speaking of Food War, she's also Megumi Tadakura. Red Queen's voiced by Stephanie Young, who you can hear as KK Blood Blockade Battlefront, and Nico Robert in One Piece. Sergold is voiced by our other ADR director, Caitlin Glass. You can hear her as when we rock. You could have heard her as when we rock Bell and Fullmetal Alchemist, but you can hear her as I said that's why I say you could have.
Yeah, you got to put the word "could" past tense in there.
But you can hear her as Mina Ashino in My Hero Academia. Heinrich Selman is played by J. Michael Tatum. You can hear him as you could have heard him as Erwin Smith in Attack on Titan, or Sebastian McCann in Black Butler. But one's dead, the other is no longer in print.
Yeah, it's hard to tell which one is worse.
That having been said, we go on to our final group, the creme de la creme, if you will. We have Wilhelm, who is Alexander's son. He's a quarter elf, but despite that, he ages kind of normally. He raises his granddaughter Adelheid, who's kind of suffering from an illness because she has a bout of loneliness. Because I guess whatever this illness is, her mother is not able to approach her because of her pregnancy. They said in one episode. So grandfather decides to take her out to this restaurant. It's closely guarded secret, and then after they had a nice experience together eating clouds.
Clouds.
Yeah,
it's not going to be confusing to the staff 4 years later. It's like, what do you mean you had clouds? Like, I don't know what that means. Turns out it happened to be parfait, choco parfait.
Which can kind of go hand in hand with Moose if you think about it, because they're both light and fluffy. Yep. But the way they do chocolate parfait is different, so anyway. Mm-hmm. So, years later, Adelheid grows up, Wilhelm passes away. Wilhelm was the Duke of the Empire, which 50 years ago was kind of small, but thanks to his closely guarded secret, he grew potatoes from the other world in the Eastern continent, which allowed him to rule this nation of a beast of an empire years later. Mm-hmm. He is succeeded by his son Wolfgang, who we don't know much about, but we do know that he's Adelheid's father. Takes over the empire. There's not much to him.
Yeah,
I just kind of put him here for connection's sake.
Okay,
keep it all in the family, basically.
He's definitely less involved than, like, say, like Victoria's connection to like her niece and nephew. I don't know if really Wolfgang has a whole lot of involvement in this, but at least he gave us a very good-looking daughter.
Yep, a daughter who ends up getting married later. So, speaking of royalty, we also have Prince and his half-sister. We have Sharif and Rena. Sharif came across this restaurant one day and was intrigued by the iced coffee or coffee float. So much so, he decides to bring this innovation back to the land by performing a little magic on a coffee pot, if you will.
Yes, to the land of sand, which contrasts that to the more Eurocentric looking fantasy setting that all the other characters are in. Their world is much more like Persian, Arab looking design, which also means that they have the ability to perform magic much better than the other fantasy characters.
Yeah, basically it's more of a Turkish setting because I know of a Turkish coffee that is you brew the cup and you put it in the sand. There's a video I've seen of that, so I know that has to be at least a Turkish kind of Persian setting. But yeah,
you mean the technique where you heat the coffee by putting it in hot sand?
Yes,
I've seen that video too. And I don't know how it's done, but it's very. It looks like it'd be a good parlor trick.
I mean, it's hot sand. What is there to it? The only difference is it's not like it's a pour through. You just basically you steepen the coffee in water, pour hot sand to raise temperature.
Well,
at least that's what I've noticed.
It intrigues me because I just know, like, I've been to the beach a million times. I live on a beach. I'm just be worried, like, that sand is going to get into the cup. No matter how you try, it's going to get into the cup.
But damn, do they know how to pour it well without doing that. Anyway, these, as Noah said, these two are magicians, and they're half siblings. And I think because of that, Render has the stronger affinity for magic, but they were both raised equally by their father. Uh, Render, let's just say the coffee flow is not the only thing he thirsts for. He seems to have a thing for Adelheid, and Render is kind of his wingman in a sense, to which is one of the reasons he keeps coming back to the restaurant time and time again. To the eventual point, he finally decides to confess his feelings for Adelheid, and they get married. And then hilarious,
so
yeah,
it's so cute. A little cross culture connection through the power of good food.
To which a hilarious moment ensues when Master pulls out a knife for the wedding cake. Yes. And Sharif goes on the offense. Actually, no, he goes on the defense.
Yeah, you're right.
Because, it's not custom where they come from, so it's all new to them.
So the point of this show is trying to get across is that we could bridge all of our diplomatic problems if we could just sit people down and eat a nice... what's that one dish where it's like a cabbage with sauce and mayonnaise put on top of it? Omiyaki. No, it's
sorry.
What? I forget how to pronounce it. I know it. I've seen it in a lot of anime. What's it called? Okonomiyaki. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
If we could get Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden to sit down and enjoy a nice Japanese meal together, we could solve all the world's problems. That's the moral of this show.
While I'm all for foreign relations, this is not the time, no place for that.
Fair enough.
And you play these five. Wilhelm is played by Bruce Carey, who you've also heard as Chaos in Green X and Silver's Rayleigh in One Piece. Or if you want to go old school, he's the narrator for Level E.
Is that old school? Oh, I guess it is at this point.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first things I watched back in the day. Unfortunately, we do not know who voices Wolfgang. If it does come out, I did ask Caitlin ahead of time, so if it does come out before this episode goes up, I'll put the credits in here. But as of right now, we have no idea who voices him. Adelheid is voiced by Chidi Torado, who you've also heard as Kel and Tuesday, and Kaiser Numa and Kiss Him Not Me. As an addendum, for episode 2, I think it was, she had a stand-in. Alexis Tipton stood in for her. Alexis Tipton, no citation needed, mostly because I didn't bother writing things down. But if you've heard Alexis Tipton, you know who Alexis Tipton is.
If you hadn't told me that, if you hadn't told me that Alexis had filled in for this character, I would not have noticed. I was that much not able to pick up the difference, unfortunately.
It's impressive. Sharif is voiced by Rico Fajardo, who you've heard as Itono Horibe in Assassination Classroom, and Mitsuo Hitokoe in the Baka because Happy fucking New Year.
New Year. Rapid Rico! Woohoo!
I love that moment. And Rena is voiced by Elizabeth Maxwell, who you've heard as Arisa Uotani in Fruits Basket 2019, and Midnight in My Hero Academia. So, to kick off our final group, what do we think of these 11 people?
These people really do help round out the patronage because they all, as opposed to the previous group where there was a lot, I felt like there was a lot more uniformity in their like backgrounds. Like a lot of them were like more noble characters or like esteemed individuals. This group is a little more ragtag. You've got military people, but you've also got warriors. You've got like shunned individuals. You got dragons. So because of that, they all help round out the vibe of this show, which is that everyone enjoys being able to sit down and enjoy a meal in a time period that they're all experiencing that seems to be full of a lot of war and turmoil. You mentioned that Sheriff and Adelheid kind of hook up, and which is good for their romance, but it's also good for their kingdoms because it unites their kingdoms, so they stop fighting each other. But their performances of the whole group is a really good indication of how having a good ensemble who rounds out the different personality traits and bounce off of each other well makes a show like this work. So I don't have qualms. I was looking for an issue or maybe a shortcoming. Like even Jeremy Inman's Lionel, which is very rough and like intentionally rough, is still fitting for the character, and I can't think of a way I would have directed it differently.
Yeah. I think everybody did job very well for the most part. I will say, like I said, with Barry Yandel and Charles Campbell, Jeremy Schwartz is kind of niche. I'm glad he was able to return for this season. I really wish I could hear him in more things, because he has a very unique voice, and I know you haven't watched it, but Moonshiners is kind of a trip because it was like one of the few times you can hear a voice actor that outside of an anime, it's very kind of surreal. And after the holidays we'll all be going through or have gone through, we all could use a drink sometime, you know.
Oh, absolutely. I do like how Jeremy gets to he goes from this very composed admiral character, in charge of other people in the military, and he gets to be ecstatic about curry rice. He's not only excited to have it when he comes in, but he also gets to describe the flavors of the different kinds that the chef asks him to sample. Like, he's one of the few characters who gets to sample new dishes because the chef really admires his opinion about curry. Green curry, soup curry, beef tendon curry, the new chicken curry, all of those, Jeremy gets to, go all out on describing the flavor and the textures and all that good stuff that love to use to describe food.
Yeah, basically, because I didn't. I guess I could bring this up because one of the interesting things about some of these characters is like how everything is integrated with each other. Because I know with the Sirens, they come across this island that we learned he was shipwrecked on.
Yes.
They actually find his treasure. Like, he left a note and everything.
Yeah, they didn't take his gold. He left it there for people to use, specifically for the restaurant to another world.
Yeah, basically. Also, I didn't realize it was the same island that you see Wake and Arte come upon, which I realized Wake, he was also kind of shipwrecked onto that island too. We kind of learned that it's through the Sirens probably, because the Sirens say that the one thing in the narration it says is that Sirens attract sailors by their call, and then they shipwrecked them on an island. That's how he came across Arte all of a sudden, because Arte saved him from drowning in the water.
Mm-hmm. Although his shipwrecking had nothing to do with the Sirens, it was just he was out in a fishing boat in a storm.
In the storm, yes, but basically, well, this was better integrated in my head, but I know it all connected. So anyway,
sorry,
but yeah,
you're right. There's a lot of interconnectivity between the episodes, more so than most anthology shows. You compare this to a show like Mushishi or Holic or I don't know, even like Galaxy Express 39, where there's not always connections between the individual episodes. In this one, there's little threads between the characters and the ongoing conflict that keeps popping back up that will reward you if you're paying attention.
Yeah, basically. I've said that. Shout out to Britt April, to McKinnon Krantz, Howard Wang, and Emily Connors, respectively. Especially Howard and Amber, there was a very good reason I left them off the list, because reasons.
Okay.
Speaking of reasons, Stephanie Young is the Red Queen. She didn't do as much with the 2 episodes we saw her in, but she was very influential in ways.
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to point out that although the Red Queen only shows up in about 2.5 episodes, voice acting wise, Stephanie gets to have reverb on her voice because she's one of only 2 characters who speaks through telepathy. She has a psychic conversation with Kuro, which means that the engineers get to put reverb on her voice to convey that, speaking to people through your mind sense. And this just ties again to something that we talked about in previous episodes of this podcast. Give thanks to your audio engineers. Is a thankless, underappreciated job, but absolutely makes every show in ways that you will never notice. If you're not noticing their work, that means that they're doing it correctly, and that is absolutely commendable.
Yeah, basically. You know what? Let me do that right now. Just to give a quick shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shout out to Derek Elkins, Chino Paletti, and James Baker. Y'all did a very good job on this. I gotta say, like, for some of the effects that are used in this episode, they were very neat. Credit where credit is due. It kind of provides this surrealism that the show is providing.
Do you know if any of this was recorded remotely? Because if the show was... I know the show... the second season came out in 2021, but was the recording done remotely?
My theory is maybe, because I remember season 1, Jeff Vicente was also credited as an engineer, and he runs Central Command Studios in California, which I believe this was probably around the time Jeannie moved out to LA. I could be wrong. And I know that Zeno Robinson and Zephy Wynn popped up in season 2 as well, well as Jeannie returning. So,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Zeno Robinson showed up in this because I only know him as a West Coast talent. So hearing that he was in this show, which was mostly full of Texas actors, made me think like, well, there's a little cross company work going on here with the pandemic going on.
Speaking of other foreign talent, Bill Butts and Oscar Sung as the two warring gods.
The two dwarf characters?
No. That's Greg Dolce and Bill Jenkins. Fuck. As Soimon and Doshima. I know one of them. One's an Onmyoji, the other's a priest, I think. One likes seafood.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, that was the, I'm going to pronounce this correctly here, the Okonomiyaki episode.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, there's a lot more of that going on in season 2 than season 1, obviously.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on the other performances. Like, Rico was good, Jeannie was good, Elizabeth worked well off of Rico. You can add stuff that you want on the other ones. I am glad, though, that with Sarah Gold's character, that Caitlin gave Alexis someone else to... gave Jill someone else to work off of as Aletta, aside from the restaurant staff. So her contribution as a, another character for Aletta's character to work with was a welcome change to the kind of the routine that the show seemed to have gotten into. It was good to see the characters outside of the restaurant setting.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Caitlin had a very well reserved approach to this character because, even though she's adventurous, Sarah doesn't exactly know what lies ahead for her, so taking things one step at a time. There was even a point where she exhausted herself in one episode after she employed Elena as essentially a caretaker, maid, if you will, for lack of a better term. Yeah. And then they discovered cheese, and everything was alright. It was cheese, and what the hell else? Oh, not cookies. That was with Felicia.
Yeah, no, she it was the soup. It was like
corn potage,
rice.
Corn
yeah,
potage.
Yeah, corn. Yeah, it was a corn, sweet corn soup. It's like a chowder almost.
Potage, yeah.
But yeah, that does sound good. I've had chicken corn chowder was one of the dishes that, ironically, the restaurant that my mom managed for years, that was like one of their signature dishes. It was really well done.
Yeah, I remember tomato basil soup we used to have at work, then they discontinued it.
Ooh.
It's probably one of the only times I've ever really tasted tomato, to be honest. But
Really?
yeah, 'cause I know some people don't have a thing for eating raw tomatoes, but it's even if you salt and pepper them, it's like they'd rather eat it in processed form, which I can completely understand.
Oh, I can't. And I say that as someone who, I do know a person who dislikes raw tomatoes. My wife, Jennifer, she will not eat tomatoes. She'll eat ketchup, but she can't do even when you salt and pepper them, raw tomatoes. And I don't get it. I just don't get it at all.
It probably might be something from a distant memory. 'Cause I remember for the longest time I used to dislike mashed potatoes, but that was because I was eating the packaged ones. When you make them fresh, however, that's different.
Oh, Jamal, you're hurting me here. Oh,
No,
God.
no. This was a long time ago. Now,
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just like, oh, young Jamal had to eat the boxed potato flakes. Oh, God, let me go back in time and fix this. I'll feed you right, Jamal. I'll get you real potatoes. A little bit of butter, a little bit of cream cheese, a little salt and pepper, and a tiny bit of garlic powder. I'll get you right, man. Nobody should eat boxed potatoes. Nobody! It just makes me cry inside.
anyway.
Where were we? Yeah, where were we?
So we've covered the frequent patrons. J. Michael Tatum was pretty good. Wasn't really much to his character other than his bravado. Caitlin Glasses Hilgo was very good, very reserved. Bruce Carey, I don't get to talk a lot about Bruce Carey. It's been a hot minute since the B-Dex episode, and I really like his tone of voice. It's just like Jeremy Schwartz is very niche. You don't hear him in a lot of things, and if you do, it's probably one of those blink and you're missing type of deals. I wish I knew who voiced Wolfgang, but
for Bruce Carey's performance, did it really sound different to you than the other old man characters in the show? Like, did it sound different from like Charles Campbell or John Swasey's performances to you?
No, because Charles Campbell was kind of being a bit of a wisecracker. John Swasey was kind of being a bit of a stoic character. Jeremy Schwartz was kind of being a bit of a noble character because he is a Navy admiral after all.
Yeah, Jeremy Schwartz, I feel like was the most distinct of the older characters. I didn't really get a grasp on what Bruce Carey's like defining personality trait was, but I think that's mostly because he just didn't show up in that many episodes.
He's only there to provide backstory for Adelheid, to which Genie Toronto as Adelheid was very charming, very cute. It's been, I know y'all covered her in the Carol Tuesday episode, but it's been a while since I've heard her in another show. It's like, I don't have. It's not that I don't have time to watch Netflix shows. It's just that.
Again, 168 hours in a week.
It's not because a lot of shows are being created. It's just when I go and try to access Netflix, it's either on my phone or something. It's like I don't have time to watch it on my big screen because I'd have to log in. And there's a whole thing with the password and stuff. And plus, you have to kind of sift through the sections to get to the anime. So
that's true. It's not usually right on the front page.
Yeah, but with Genie's Adelheid, I really loved it, especially in contrast to Rico and Sharif, because Rico is like he's trying to act like a little privileged teenager or something. Like it's something he really likes, but he's too shy, too afraid to admit it. And then you got Elizabeth Maxwell's his wingman telling him to basically butter up. So
grow a pair, like come on, brother.
I was gonna say nut up, but that's too on the nose.
That's exactly what she's saying. She's right there saying like you Idiot, you had the chance, it was right there, and you didn't sack up. It was sack up or shut up, and you shut up.
But I like the progression later on. They actually managed to get through that. I think, what, 3 or 4 episodes?
Not simultaneously, I think, but you're referring to, like, the whole course of the, like, from when they're introduced to when you actually... Yeah, it's about 3 episodes worth of content. They're just spaced out, because we see them introduced in the, which episode is that? The Melon Soda Float episode. That's episode 9 of season 1. And then it's resolved by the end of season 2.
Which is funny because the whole time you see like he has like a little trade agreement to provide iced coffee to the Eastern continent with Wolfgang, which he's basically essentially opening a Starbucks.
Yes, yeah, he's opening a medieval Starbucks. That is true.
Only to end up taking Adelheide's hand in marriage. I was like, wow, that is turn well, except for the descriptions, that is a turn I did not see coming.
It's how they, resolved conflicts between countries back in the day. It's like, your daughter and my son, they're going to hook up, and that's going to be it. Then we can be friends. But if they don't get married, then we can never be friends.
But usually those kinds of stories, it's a political arrangement, and the relationship between the two is platonic. This one, they just basically, like, consummate the love through dessert, or consummate the dessert through love, however you want to put it.
That's a great way to resolve things. I can't think of a better way for diplomatic peace treaties. Again, as we were talking about, you get world leaders together, you share an ice cream coffee, or an iced coffee with each other, and we can have world peace. Make it happen.
I think on that note, we've said our piece, so it's time to move into the final thoughts. So,
yeah,
what do we think of the show overall as a whole?
Alright, so I'm going to be honest in that I did not watch the show spaced out like I was supposed to. I marathoned all 24 episodes of the show in the span of this weekend, basically.
Hey,
and
me
the
too.
reason why I was able to do that is because this is an insanely easy show to watch. There is almost no plot that you need to keep track of. You can play it in the background almost without really needing to watch the visuals because everyone's describing how great their dishes are. Steamed potato, chicken curry, pork soup, cream croquette, Mont Blanc, like every dish that's being described by the characters. And all of them do a really good job of explaining the textures, the flavors, the contrasting thing. The thing I really love about this show is that it doesn't just describe dishes, it also gives like recommendations for like sides or extra flavors to add on top of it that you may want to try at home. And the entire cast rises to that occasion, gives a variety of voices to the variety of characters. Almost nobody sounds out of place. The only one that sounded like maybe not quite what the Japanese was going for was there's an episode where it's the Scotch egg episode where the character of Emilio comes across a Lamia and he's having trouble because people keep thinking he's a girl just based on his his look and his voice. But the voice, and I didn't look up who voiced him. I should probably do that.
Clifford Chapin.
Clifford Chapin, thank you. It's like that's clearly a guy. Like it's not ambiguous enough. It's not in between male or female to confuse the two. But that's a one shot character. That's a one episode character. That's not a huge thing. For the most part, everyone's performances rise up to this healing anime, making you hungry by describing dishes and bouncing off of each other with different personality traits that are united in their love for good cooking.
Amen. Yeah, I like how they just balance the flavors of this show without muddling anything. Like, basically, they, I guess in a sense, they let the dishes speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And how it just kind of brought everybody together in this setting because if anybody else would write the show, it would not have come off as well as it did. it takes a special kind of something to just like make everything cohesive and enjoyable because there are food shows, and some of them like either play up the food for I guess comedy or like it's hard to describe. I just know that when you watching a food-based show, you gotta make not only the food tied to the character development, but you gotta make sure it ties into the or whatever plot is there as well. Because at the end of the day, if you're watching Restaurant or Another World, you gotta be intrigued by not only the food but the ambiance, the setting, if you will. If even one thing falls apart, the whole show falls apart. Really.
See, I theorized while watching this that the writing process from like the original story was that they would think of a dish that they wanted to integrate into the story first, and then backtrack like how it could be fit into the story overall. And like if they couldn't think of a pre-existing character who that dish would be tied into, they'd make a new one. So in that sense, the whole show is really a catalog for different dishes that you at home might like to try, because they're very simple and not entirely simple, but you can make this in your home. There's no one dish I feel like in this entire show that you yourself, as even a basic cook, I'm talking to the audience, not you, Jamal, I know you're much higher than that, couldn't go into your kitchen and prepare yourself.
Yeah, the only thing I ask is don't ask to have something to wrap on the weekend because I will fucking scream.
Yes, make sure to tip your cooks well, people, and not overwork them.
Yeah, they may be there for you, but don't take advantage of them. So,
absolutely, and this is why I try to tip very well when I go out to eat.
Yep, but here's a tip for you, audience: if you want to see the show for yourself, it's just moved to the whole entire show itself just moved to the Crunchyroll app. I don't have the pricing structure I had, but I know at the very least it's $7.99 a month. The prices may be set to increase soon, but be wary of that. If you still have the Funimation app, you could probably still watch it until the day it decides to close down.
They've been teasing that for what's it been like almost a year now, and it still hasn't happened.
Basically, they have the master key and haven't decided to break it yet.
Exactly. They haven't broken the master key from the streaming portal to another world.
But if you want on the show for yourself, season 1 is available on Blu-ray and Right Stuff or wherever you get your anime. The manga and the light novels are also available digitally and also at Right Stuff or wherever you purchase your manga from. I think they also came out with a new edition version of it too. Anyway, that's where you can find Restaurant to Another World. Where you can find us, however, is on YouTube at Dub Talk Podcast, on Twitch, also on our alternate channel at Dub Talk Games. Oh, Dub Talk Gaming. Double check. Yeah, on somehow on Tumblr because it's starting to make a resurgence again.
I wonder why. People are coming back to Tumblr.
I see somebody in the southern continent that pissed some people off, so
yes.
Yeah. We rarely use Instagram, but who knows the way things are going. We can also be found on Twitter at Dub Talk Podcast. I don't remember if I mentioned that.
Yeah, basically, if you see the handle Dub Talk anywhere around the World Wide Webs, it's probably us.
Yeah. The Dub Talk Podcast can also be found on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. As for what we get up to, I can be found on Twitter at Japstar529, on YouTube at Japstar1. If you want to find me on Facebook, just DM me and I'll give you my name. I'm going scorched earth with Twitter. I don't care what happens. I'm going to be that guy that last guy remaining on Channel Awesome. I'm doing all that if Twitter implodes.
You're going to be the Guru Larry of the Twitter exodus, huh?
Yeah, because I don't trust Instagram with my photos.
As you probably shouldn't. I mean, I don't know if you really should trust any social media network at all, but there are some you can trust more than others. You can follow me on Twitter. I also do not intend to leave exactly just yet. At Noah Clue. Don't have an incentive to really go anywhere else, but I am on Discord. So if you look up Noah Clue number 0008, that is my account. You feel free to send me a friend request. If I know you, I'll probably add you on, and if I don't, just send a nice message and I'll think about it. As we're wrapping up here, Jamal, may I please do the honors of calling out the Dub Talk patrons who helped make this episode possible?
Yes, please.
All right. So, as Jamal mentioned, we also have a Patreon account where we release the episodes early and also have a bi-monthly poll for a special patron chosen episode. So if you'd be interested in that, you can sign up for Patreon. Like these amazing individuals, starting with our $5 tier, we want to give a big thank you to Julia W., Michelle Travis, Victor Maybaroda, Megan's mom and dad, and Nico Robin, but with Yowie hands. And then we want to give an even bigger thank you to our $10 patrons. These are the best of the best people who donate a little bit extra to get the episodes early and also get to be part of that special poll I mentioned. So those people are Jared Hawkins, Crimson Echidna, Carly Lesticow, Otaku Anthony, Anthony Brown, Marissa Lenti, and Jacob Wilson. Thank you guys so much for helping us out and for continuing to be amazing individuals. We could not do the special Thanksgiving episode without you. You get an extra drumstick.
Yes, folks, just remember Thanksgiving is good for two things: food and animals. Now, if you excuse me, I have to pull Mariah Carey out the freezer.
Oh, no. I'm still winning the Mariah Carey Bowl. I don't want to lose just yet. Not at least until the day after Thanksgiving. I've resisted putting up the decorations.
So from all of us here at Dub Talk, we wish you a good night. Otaku on. Keep on eating.
Aloha. Don't be afraid to try cooking. I mean, if demons from another world can do it, so can you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Aloha.
Hey, that's my line.